Hi, it's Richard Moore from 8-StepStartup here. I wanted to talk a little bit more about social media. So I did a recent post on the importance of social media in the first place with your startup business. Someone's response to that content was to ask if I could share a little more insight on some good, I suppose, best practice for effectively engaging with an audience. And what's really important to bear in mind is with social media, it's not always what you say, it's both how you say it and to whom. So if we look generally at social media, there's quite a few different things that can be used. And the first step, which I'm not really going to talk about much here, is to think about which social media platform is best for you. You know, do your research. There is a different audience on Pinterest, for instance, to Instagram, and people are looking more specifically, I suppose, people are looking for different things with these different platforms. So with that in mind, you need to tune in a little bit with the different types of content you use. Personally, I get a lot of success using a model I developed called the F.I.N model, F.I.N. And the idea is really is actually nothing earth-shattering about it, but it's something that you just have to do consistently. And with social media, more often than not, it's being consistent. And before I get into that, the way to understand it is if you look at some of the greatest brands on the planet. So companies, you know, one of the most recognised is, for instance, Coca-Cola. And as an example, Coca-Cola is an abundant brand. It's a brand, a message that is always there, much like McDonald's, much like Starbucks, for instance. You are always seeing them. And in essence, your content is a way of you to brand yourself, but also to advertise yourself as well. So you need to bear that in mind when you apply the F.I.N model. So the F for F.I.N simply stands for frequent or frequency. You need to make sure you are frequently and regularly posting content. It's like I said to someone recently, if you put one thing online, and he was talking to me about, this is a client of mine, he's got his own business, and he was talking about trying to get this really well polished advert. But I said the thing is, one really well polished advert, you know, and then nothing for a few weeks, you're not going to get much from it. What you need to do is regularly be there. So with frequency, for instance, with your normal posts on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, there should be a minimum of 3 times a day. If you're a global business or a business that can target people worldwide, you need to bear in mind time zones. So think about, for instance, with the likes of Facebook and things like that, using one of these apps like Buffer or something like that can help you schedule these things. In fact, Facebook itself actually has a function in it where from a page manager view rather than a personal profile view, you can actually schedule posts. So for one of my businesses, the entire business page, I schedule all the posts for a week on that. I think usually do it on a Sunday for about an hour, and then it's all done. So that's quite handy, but you must be frequent. 3 times a day is a really good thing to do, because some people are tucked up in bed otherwise, and you gotta imagine that you always want to be the top of the pile. So there's 2 ways you can be the top of the pile, and what I mean by that is in people's notifications or news feeds, you want to be right up there. So the 2 ways to be the top of the pile is to post something, so it takes you to the top of the pile, or to do something compelling enough that someone's going to make a comment or write on it. Because if something happens such as a comment, usually it gets bumped back up the top again, because of course Facebook, for instance, suggests it seems to think it might be a hot topic or something that's interesting. That leads neatly on from F, frequent posts, to I, which is intelligent posts. Now this is important because intelligent posts aren't just the content, but it's also being intelligent about what you actually decide to post and how you do that. So on the first point, people like to read posts from someone who has something to really say. And if you have something that's compelling and interesting and intelligent, then it's going to be a little bit more effective. If you are just doing the same old run-of-the-mill, boring old posts, and if you think about what you see a lot of online, it's just, a quote or with nothing added in terms of a caption, or regurgitating someone else's idea, unless you add your own twist or your own rationality in there as well, if you don't explain why you think this is a good post or why you think the content is valuable, with your own kind of intellect put in there, you're not going to get quite the traction you otherwise would. Just putting up posts for the sake of it isn't going to be as effective. Basically, there's no shortcut here. You need to try a bit harder than just sticking stuff up. So I've seen some profiles, I've looked at some of my clients' profiles who have online businesses, and their Facebook pages are literally shared posts, stuff that other people have done. And the thing is, if it's not original, or at least looking at original, as in something you've created yourself, it's just not going to be as effective. Okay, so all you're doing is you're boosting the profile of the original person who posted that, rather than your own. So it's fine to post other people's things, or for instance, quotes. I post quotes myself, but make sure you add some relevancy there as well. And the other thing about being intelligent with your posts is not just the actual things you put online, it's also the comments you put on other people's posts as well. So you need to start thinking, if you look at it from a business perspective, I'm talking really more about Facebook here, but also Instagram, you need to think intelligently about what you're actually going to like, what you're actually going to comment on as well. Are you really going to comment on everything? Because if you're too abundant, then actually you end up with a little bit less cachet about your comments. If you're not always there writing every 5 minutes about anything that pops into your head, then when you do say something, it seems a little bit more profound. But just bear in mind this thing, because some people they like to moan and bitch about things that are going on, or they say things that maybe politically aren't particularly correct or a little bit too controversial. Controversial is fine, by the way. It's good to be opinionated. People like that. It separates people, but it also draws the people who like your ideas more to you. Being overly controversial or negative or trolling, of course, it's just not a good idea at all. You need to be a little bit more professional, basically. So bear that in mind. Be supportive. Alice Korngold, who I've recently posted about, who was in touch with me and was voted recently by Fast Company in the top 30 most influential Twitter users, females in Twitter, I believe. She said you've got to be engaging. You can't just put tweets out all the time. On Twitter, you have to support each other. You have to write comments. You have to work with the community, and that helps you learn. And you learn more to help you with your own posts as well. So give something back. It's not just the posts, but also how you interact with other people as well. If someone comments on your post, for instance, on Facebook or Instagram, well, then respond to it. And I often say something like, "Thank you for sharing," and then you give some more information relating to their point, or you ask them a question. Get some kind of dialogue going, because then you've got some substance about you. So intelligence posting is important. So we've got frequent posts, intelligent posts, and N stands for niche. Make sure you think hard about niche. Posting on your own page, of course you should be doing that, because people will often follow you. There's a difference to having friends. You can have a lot of friends, but the people who are following you, the ones who have opted to see you on their news feed, sure, you should be posting on your own page regularly. In addition to that, you need to be posting within your niche, especially again if you have an online business, but even if you don't, you need to have an abundance of presence specifically with the set of people that are going to potentially buy from you. There's no point being everywhere, because you're not going to be able to penetrate everywhere unless you do something absolutely, out of this world. And then we're talking about, the likes of Richard Branson, Elon Musk. They do really penetrate everywhere. What's best for a startup is to identify forums or groups where your potential customers or people you can seek out advice from, wherever they're going to be. So for instance, if you're going to work with startup businesses, you need to be in groups where they it's an entrepreneurial focus or a startup focus, for instance, and then you need to post in those groups. And something one of my mentors, who became a millionaire from work he did online by the time he was 18, Matt Pocious, he said, well, what you need to do is make sure you are, basically a local celebrity. And I think Ty Lopez, his mentor directly, also said this as well. Be a local celebrity within that group of, for instance, 12,000 people on Facebook who do what you do. Maybe it's MLM, for instance. You need to be the guy that's always there, always posting. People almost expect to see you each day. You're almost as much a celebrity as the person who set up the group itself. And what that's going to mean is that the leads or the people who contact you, or even just the comments you receive, they're from a much richer audience. And what I mean by that is that people who you potentially can work with, collaborate with, or sell to. So F.I.N is the model I use. There's a few more things to it, and of course 8-Step Startup puts a lot more substance behind this. But if you're frequent, you're intelligent about your posts, and you post them to the correct niche, then you can't go that far wrong. And the numbers then do the talking. You'll be stunned. All of a sudden, people are contacting you left, right, and centre with real interest in what you have to say. So try it out, see what you think, and let me know.